It Chapter 2 is here, and Bill Skarsgård is back as Pennywise the dancing clown who can change forms and eat little children. This movie follows the story from the first movie as it awakes from its slumber 27 years later, and as the members of the Losers Club reunite as their adult selves, they try to find a way to end it once and for all. And I gotta say, the resemblance is almost uncanny. I think they did a really good job with the casting of this movie, and everybody performed extremely well. Coming into this movie, I was wondering how they would keep the feeling similar to the first movie with a new cast, one that's already grown up, mind you, but it really did feel like everyone in the Losers Club in this movie were who they were 27 years ago in the first movie. This movie's crazy, and I had an absolute blast watching it. It felt like I was on a roller coaster. There were legit some instances where I started bursting out laughing or clapping just because of how insane or perfect a certain sequence went. Now, if you're familiar with the first movie, then there really shouldn't be any surprises in this movie. If you love the first one like I did, then chances are you're going to enjoy this one as well. You know that there will be some really disturbing and horrific shit all revolving around this shape-shifting clown who can make your fears come to life. But here's the thing, they try to have fun while doing so. This movie is pretty funny. There's like this Shining reference that makes the whole movie, honestly. And the thing I love about horror movies the most is the sense of uncertainty, not knowing what you're going to get, not knowing what to expect and what's going to happen next. Like I said, this movie felt like a roller coaster. Things happen left, right, and center, but it all plays in part with the characters experiencing these scary hallucinations, which is what it wants you to see, but may not necessarily be real. It's all part of salting the meat, which is how it captures its prey, by using their fear against them. And that made for some really fun and interesting sequences in this movie. It almost feels like a game I know, The Evil Within. Some of the scenes in this movie reminded me so much of that game, just strange and bizarre things that happen that wow you. And I love those things. But this movie isn't perfect. I mean, I could nitpick the shit out of this movie if I wanted to. Like how this guy dies, or how maybe they should have deleted that sequence or that scene. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking before I start spoiling shit, but I will say this. In terms of the parts of the movie, the second act felt really dragged on. The first act was great at introducing the characters, introducing it, revisiting the first movie, but then the second act felt like multiple clips kind of edited together. And while I did enjoy it, I didn't feel like it had a big purpose in the overarching story. I mean, like, if they deleted some of those clips, I wouldn't even have noticed. Like, it wasn't that important to the whole story of this movie. The movie would still make sense. That's what I'm trying to get at. I will say this though, the third act was awesome, and I loved it, and it was very intense. Now, I never watched the original miniseries or read the original novel, because I was too young for that. But I do know that this adaptation of it is pretty different to, the novel, the original source. And from what I know, the original source, the novel, was way more disturbing and horrific than the film will ever be. But the thing I loved most about the first movie was afterwards, when I started to research it, I got intrigued to its character, and so I wanted to learn more about its backstory from the novel. If you didn't already know, which I surely didn't, it is actually a shape-shifting creature from another dimension, and its natural enemy is a giant turtle. Yeah. That's fucking insane. While this overall theme wasn't really explored in the first movie, it was kind of explored in this movie, but not enough. Like, they didn't bring up space or another dimension, which was something that I was really looking forward to coming into this movie, which was to learn more about its creepy origins. Although I do understand that side of the story can be very overwhelming, and they tried to make the films as human as possible without people saying, like, what the fuck is happening. That could make for a really cool future movie though. Overall, I still think the first movie is better ever so slightly, but that's only because When you've seen a really good first movie, you have certain expectations for the second movie. And generally speaking, the second movies aren't necessarily going to be as good. I'm going to give It Chapter 2 an A-. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Have you seen It Chapter 2? What did you think about it? Please leave a comment on your thoughts below. Like the video if you liked it, and drop a sub to help the channel out. Also, feel free to check out my previous video. Until next time.